who had a little bit a Western or a modern education and then put it into a very traditional background for a certain period of time. Maybe he might have had a big turbulence in his life to shifting from a new age education to a traditional age education. Then he came to again to a different setup like AVP and now in the Amrita Institute. So we have a very, very different or unique personalities of today to speak about Ayurveda. So what I'm going to do in this three session, I would like to categorize this session into three. As one is about the challenges of in the situation in 2030, and second is about how we can reform the existing system. So what are your ideas about these reforms of Ayurveda? And then the last, what could be the hope what we should take into them? So my first question is to Dr. P. Ram Manohar, that are our Ayurvedic education is really competent enough to cater the whole world for now as well as in the future? As we know that you are also a part of an international teacher and you're also the part of the national many policy makings of the nations, as like previously you are a CCM member, now you are also part of the Niti Ayog. So from a student's perspective, from an academic perspective, how you see the future of Ayurveda? Ramji, please.
So thank you. It's an honor to be part of this distinguished panel. And my greetings to Nambi, Dr. Uni and Dr. Ajayan sir. Yes, it is a very important question to ask whether Ayurvedic education is really delivering. To put it very simply, this is something which I've been pondering on for so many years, even when I was a student. I think the current educational system is unable to actually bring the core competency that is needed, to excel in the field of Ayurveda. This is obviously creating a lot of frustrations amongst the Ayurvedic practitioners, and especially the fact that people are doing cross-system therapy is a matter of real concern. And this is also leading to a lot of tensions between allopathic practitioners and Ayurvedic practitioners, because I was recently also involved in a debate with modern representatives from IMA. And what I found was, after all the debates and discussions, the one point they keep talking about is that when you study one system of medicine, you shouldn't be practicing another system. So why is that happening? That is something which we have to really, think about. If you study Ayurveda, you should have that core competency to practice Ayurveda. So I think one of the main reasons why this is not being addressed is that also we have not sensitized our educational system to meet the real healthcare needs of our society. In India, a very strange healthcare system prevails. There is pluralism and coexistence, but there is no cooperation or collaboration. There is no attempt to integrate, in a healthy manner and streamline the systems to address, public needs. It is just that you are given the legal sanction to study different systems, and then it is a war. You have to fight with each other, and there is no facilitation being done. And the patients are also struggling. They don't know which system to follow at which time. They are afraid to tell one doctor of one system of medicine whether they are taking medicines of another system. So it's a very, very unhealthy atmosphere. So I think the education system should, first of all, maybe I'm going a little beyond the question, but what I feel is that our educational system has to be reworked, looking at the ground realities, what the public needs. And there should be one common qualification, medical qualification, which empowers individuals to do what is needed in primary healthcare. And then there should be specialization. So unless we come into such a system, I think our educational system cannot actually deliver. So I think this is the initial thoughts that I would like to hear from others.
But meantime, Ramji, it is always a big challenge that there are many systems are accepted in this country, but probably the Ayurvedic community may be the only one medical system has so much been manipulated or adulterated over a period of time with adding of many informations representing many types. So how we can do a filtration of this whole content which is really relevant to this current era? So what is your idea about that?
Yeah, I think that requires, a lot of groundwork, a lot of scholarly, intervention from the Ayurvedic community. Now that you say that, we have been having debates in discussions within the Niti Ayog, and one of the exercise that I have been interested with is to, because, the CCI members participating in the meeting were a little busy, is to find out how much modern medical content is there in the Ayurvedic syllabus now. And when I was looking into this, I was suddenly kind of shocked. I mean, if you have this kind of a mixing of subjects, the Ayurvedic physicians do not have time to go into depth in the Ayurvedic subjects itself. I mean, it's a big distraction. I mean, they are forced to read so many things, but without really going into the depth of the topics itself. So I think, to rewrite, a samhita is something like when Charaka said, Yadi hasti tadanyatra yannai hasti natat kvetit. What he meant was that at that point of time, it was like a systematic review. Whatever information, knowledge is available at that point of time, that has been systematically compiled together. Charaka only meant that. It doesn't mean that nothing new will come. At that time, when I have written this now, I have taken into consideration everything that is available, what is valid, what is acceptable. So it is like a systematic review that we are doing today. I think such an exercise has to be done in the field of Ayurveda. In those days, probably one individual had that ability to do it, but today we don't. We need a whole team of individuals, sitting together, working towards it. One such attempt was initiated for the Charaka Samhita. We have a Charaka Wikipedia, but still more rigor is actually needed. Through such a process, we will have to really, separate the chaff from the grain and create a new a samhita is a compilation. It's like a review of all that is available, and then you put the most relevant things together, and you should be able to tell, now this is whatever is here is, not to be found elsewhere. With that confidence, when we create a new samhita, that will be the time when, we'll have a real core teaching to, for education in the field of Ayurveda. That's what I feel.
That's a very important thing you highlighted, Ramjit. Thank you, Ramji. I'll switch on to Ajain. Ajain, you know that now in our Dravyaguna, we are learning a lot of things as a part of the syllabus. But so far, Kerala is concerned, Kerala has a very unique flora. And we have enormous books like Tilsa Manjari, Yoga Mardam, Vaidya Manoharma, and so on. And we have a large number of flora still unexplored, at least not in the stream of academy. Over a period of time, this could have been done from at least from last 25 years. Still, we haven't done that. We have not added any of the, like Harida Manjari, Kupameni. There are so many drugs which could have been really added into the mainstream practices. So how do you visualize Ayurveda education, which we can be taken into 2030? Ajain.
Namaste to all. So it's a very relevant question, like how we can understand a flora or a plant, how our Vaidyas are able to understand about these things. So in one instant, Charakacharya itself is telling about, is it all this came as an Edirchava? It's unfortunately discovered something or accidentally discovered something. It is not like that. We have a very systematic understanding of everything through our basic principles. So especially through Pratyaksham, Anumanam, Aptopdesham and all these principles. So the observations, interpretations and all these things. So in here, the Kerala scenario also, we are come across through all these things. Our Vaidyas not simply take something and then they put it in the yogas. They look at these plants in various aspects of Panchagodya, how it will be predominant in this. And from that, it's to how physically the things are existing. So one of the great difficult situations what nowadays what we are facing is to understanding the physical entity that is reliable in each and every matters. So even the students or the doctors, we are also not able to know about the physical entities what it is present. So the observation and interpretations of knowing the innumerable permutation and combinations of each and every physical entities can able to find out certain uses from specific plants. So Kerala Vidyas or Kerala traditional practices, they included new drugs or new plants, not in Kerala, in everywhere. If you go to Karnataka also, in Tamil Nadu also, new plants are came. So including new plants in the pharmacopoeia, they followed a specific method of adapting all these things. That's starting from the Panjabhautikatvam of each and every part of the plant, then to the reservoirs, and then to visualize these things in the karmas. So using the domestic animals or giving that, taking the information from the local peoples like that. So still there are so many things are there that an Ayurvedic people can do, that we can enrich our pharmacopoeia more with so much of resources. Especially if you look in the scenario of Western Ghats, we have a biodiversity hotspot and so many endemic and plants are there, and we have a variety of flowering plants. And along with that, we have a bundle of information regarding the ethnomedical practices. So by these, if we indulge in a very in-depth way of understanding of Ayurvedic things, especially regarding the plants, and then surely we can incorporate this, I think, in the new scenarios.
Maybe British pharmacopoeia might have added Gugulu, but still Indian pharmacopoeia might have not added our Harida Manjari, whatever the Kerala plants at least. Even the scheduled 54 books, we haven't added any new books into that. We haven't added. So where it is missing? So what is the lacuna behind it?
Surely, as Ramanavar sir has told, there are very much problems relating the policy making and all the things what we are executing. So in our science, it is Jagatyeva Manaushadam. Anything can be used as a medicine. And if you look into our pharmacopoeias, Indian pharmacopoeia, or if you want to prepare a medicine and we want a permission from the drug control board, we have to look into the sum of the dangerous scenario. So what will happen means the flora will be depleted in each place. We only stick on Adivisham, Aconitum, Heterophyllum Valli, and with only that drug source we are going to practice, then it is very dangerous situation. So we have to take out the same Virya Rasaguna Virya plants from the other parts. So one example like we can look is in Kerala traditional practices, the Aconitum ferox is very less. So sometimes the Kerala Vidyas are not able to get this. So what they done means they selected a plant called Nattadivadayam. Adivadayam in Malayalam, and this Nattadivadayam they are selected. How they are selected? They are selected from a marshy area, a big flowing rivers or streams. On the banks, on the marshy areas, a deep-rooted Cryptocheiron spiralis, a species is there, Ariaceae member. That is growing, and that tuber has having a same potent action. So for the Adivadayam, they are replaced with this Nattadivadayam, Cryptocheiron spiralis. So present investigations of phytochemical studies of Cryptocheiron spiralis is showing that there are so many chemical compounds that can act on our intestinal and immunity level systems. So, and one of the astonishing feature is the pH of that marshy area is nearly 7.5. And where the Aconitum ferox is growing, there the pH is also not at around these 7.5 range. So this shows that understanding the nature, where the ecology the plant is living, and accordingly we can select these species and we can include. So our pharmacopoeia has to be changed. So as an Ayurvedist, what they are founding and what they are telling regard with all the matters, the Ayurveda, through the Ayurvedic way, we can able to find that this species can be included for this purpose. Then surely we can utilize so many things. Otherwise, as the day process, we will deplete the flora and the real sources may be there. It has to be replaced with some other plants also. So like that, it has to be changed. And the new plants and the new things that is mentioned in our regional classical books, that also has to be come to limelight. Then it will be very good for sustainable utilizations of the flora from various regions.
Thank you, Ajay. You mentioned about the policies of the country. We have also a person who is behind many of the policies of the country, especially the folklore traditions and all. I invite Dr. Unnikrishnan sir to switch on his camera. Yeah. Namaste, Unnikrishnan, PM Unnikrishnan sir. It's a great honor for Ashtamgam to introduce you because you are very rare personality, especially at least for the Kerala people. Most of the people doesn't know about you because you are a person out of the box. Because after your BMS graduation, you went into a different stream of learning over a period of time, and later on you went into United Nations. So you taken a total different journey. Maybe you are one of the earliest person in Ayurveda who took a different journey. So my question to you is that you may be knowing the history of now the Ayurveda is evolving from a complementary alternative medicine to a so-called alternative medicine to a traditional medicine. At least like from a WHO recently put place in under the umbrella of traditional medicine. So can you briefly elaborate to the students that how things are evolving in the global level?
Namaste. Greetings to everyone. I'm very happy to be part of this. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So very happy to be part of this interesting discussion. And greetings of the Ayurveda Day to everyone. Lots of events happening today. I think your question regarding how do we name this system of medicine, I think it's a very interesting question. If you look at in early policy documents in Kerala, it was called indigenous medicine, and across, 1800, early 19th century, and so on. Then it becomes slowly. By 1919, there is the national. During the British period, there is the Act of what defines a medical practitioner and allopathy. And that is when I think Ayurveda becomes a separate system of medicine. What I mean is, till then, there was no real distinction between what is Ayurveda, what is Natu Vaidyam, what is indigenous knowledge, what is Unani, what is Siddha. And slowly in India, if you look at by 1970, we have the Central Council of Indian Medicine Act. And by 2000, we have the national councils and all that. So the policy development actually guided the various definitions of this term traditional medicine in India. So from indigenous medicine or traditional medicine, now we have we had in between Indian systems of medicine. Now we call it Ayush, and we have the Ministry of Ayush. If you look at the international scenario, some of these terms like traditional, complementary, alternative, indigenous, all these are used interchangeably. Depending on the context and the development of the economy and the understanding of the evidence base for traditional medicine, they are called in various ways. And the latest one is what you just said. The WHO in 2017 renamed its unit as traditional, complementary, integrative medicine. But there is also a later development. Bodies like National Institute of Health or some research institutions, they call National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. So it is much more broader. But as Dr. Ramanohar said at the beginning, now there is the effort of the Niti Aayog going on for making a plan for One India, One Health. So we don't know what is the outcome of that, but I think it's broadening. But I would argue that in contrast to, it's been a very interesting discussion from Ramanohar's position to Dr. Ajay's position to now my argument. I think we need to redefine Ayurveda, I would say. Already from Dr. Ajay's statements, you can see that it involves a lot of ethnobotany. It needs a much more broader understanding of what we call as Ayurveda today. Because what we tend to understand Ayurveda as the syllabus that we are taught and the products that are available in the market and the traditions that we have followed in last 100 years based on Yoga Grantham and Chikitsa Manjari and Sahasrayogam. I would say that while the definitions of traditional medicine is politically becoming probably narrower or broader, as academicians, we should really broaden this into ethnobotany, ethnopharmacology. Not only that, into our understanding of biodiversity ecosystems, our understanding of wellness, and so many different dimensions. We can discuss those points later, but this is the brief answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilesh. I'm back to Ram Manohar. You made a very challenging question stating that all the medical fraternity may have started with a basic modern medical education, then go further the dimensions. Is it not a big challenge for future for Ayurveda because it is a dilution of the whole medical system, or it will does it will uproot our idea? Because I really fear about this issue, because as a person from a traditional school of thought, as a person from a long history of tradition, I have a still really bit fear about the idea of integration and collaboration, because most of the time this integration is like almost like a phagocytotic activity. All the things that will be taken the best from the traditional medicine and plays in a wrong way. So Ramji, how you understand this perception and how we can place that in the right way?
Yeah, what I have thought about is in the context of what is happening today. Now, by some estimate, 70 to 90% of the topics that Ayurveda students are studying are modern medical subjects. And they don't have a proper way on how to even practice it. So many people don't know why they are studying it. And this creates a lot of frustration. Ideally, it would have been good to just teach Ayurveda alone. But I think we have reached a point where, there is some level of practice where you cannot distinguish between different medical systems. I'm not saying that the basic training should be in modern medicine. A basic training should be a multi-paradigm. I think it's very challenging and may not be immediately realistic, but we need to have debates on this. So I'm just putting that as an idea. Because in a country like India, this intolerance of different medical systems, the hostility, we are in opposition. Medical systems are in opposition. That is the model. I mean, you can see a lot of people have studied this, what different ways in which to model, in the pluralistic health systems, integrative system. The system that you are talking about is what you call as a dependent system. This is in the West, where modern medicine is dominating and all other systems are, like satellites around it. It has only that which is verified by evidence will be accepted. The third model is truly integrative, where different systems are acknowledged as having different epistemological backgrounds, but there are some common things. That is what I was thinking about. That definition of health. Modern medical doctors should also study about other systems, and if there is something which we can do at a primary health care level, in spite of what system you are going to specialize in later, you should be having the ability to do those basic treatments irrespective of the system, because that is for the people, for the public. If I am sitting in a clinic and somebody comes for a primary health care, there, that is where integration should happen. Today, even in Niti Aayog, we had discussions saying that you study Ayurveda, then specialize PG in modern medicine. That will be kind of, a complete shift from one system to the other. Whereas if the basic things you study medicine, like we are using mobile phones, it is many things we are using very commonly. Using a syringe or injection has become very common. So once you define that, so that there will not be a feeling that, doctors, I am one from one system, the basic qualification will be same, and it will be multi-system, not one single system. Then you specialize in Ayurveda, but your basic qualification as a doctor, everybody is basically having one qualification. Not in modern medicine, but in a foundational course. That is what I had in mind. So then, because otherwise what is happening is Ayurveda doctors, I mean, in Kerala, those of us who are having a passion, we may study Ayurveda alone, but that's not the way it is happening generally. There is a big danger that dilution has already happened, and people are studying Ayurveda and practicing modern medicine. The percentage of doctors who are doing that is very, very high. So in that context, if we create the foundational, primary healthcare practitioner vision, family medicine doctor, who brings in the concepts of different medical systems and offers, the first level intervention with the best practices that are available, And then they can specialize, because when you go into specialized care, collaboration alone is possible. You cannot integrate one system. You need a multidisciplinary team. In future, that is what I think will be needed. You need medical doctors to work together. So if they are all coming from some common background, then it will be easier for them to collaborate also. Because now the feeling is you are Ayurveda, I am allopathy. So our basic qualifications are different. We can never collaborate together. So that is the idea that I had in mind.
But Ramji, but there is a big challenge so far India is concerned, as we have accepted plural medical practice almost legally. So besides the commonality like Ayurveda, or there are even between these sciences like Ayurveda versus homeopathy, homeopathy versus Unani, there are a lot of struggle, or there are a lot of friction possibly might happen. And how can we overcome this challenge also? Because it is generally in India what common people are already prejudiced that okay, we have a set of problem, then this system is better. Is almost like a social choice that they can choose the right person. Maybe there are exceptions, but in general, so this is going to change, is it not?
No, see, the thing is, somebody who studies physics doesn't become hostile to chemistry. I mean,
Yeah,
somebody who
agree.
studies biology doesn't say now that physics and chemistry are false. But in medical system, that is a problem. If you study Ayurveda, we say modern medicine is wrong. If you study modern medicine, we say Ayurveda is wrong, homeopathy is wrong. This is the problem. So if we have to create an atmosphere where, when you study Ayurveda, it is like, somebody has studied physics, somebody else has studied chemistry. In order to bring that thing, this was also very well debated. It is a long drawn process. We have to first of all decide where we want to reach, but the first step may not be that. So one of the first steps that we thought would be very critical and useful is to introduce, Ayurveda and other systems to modern medical doctors. To have 80 hours or something dedicated, they start learning about this. They get what you saw as clinical clerkships. They go to Ayurveda hospitals, see patients being treated. But this has to be done very, very carefully. They should get exposed to some of the best Ayurveda centers, best case reports, so that, they have an open mind. They know that these other systems are also valid, because the current education system is what creates this hostility. So once that hostility is gone, and we realize that we have to cooperate, a physicist and a chemist can cooperate. I remember when we were students, Murli sir used to say these different views are like physics person looking at it as molecules and interactions, physicist looking at it as atoms. In a similar way, Ayurveda is having another model of the human body. If we can bring, I agree that with Dr. Unni, that if we want to bring Ayurveda to that level, a lot of rediscovery, redefining, all this may be needed. You also yourself pointed out we lost a lot of this knowledge. There has been a lot of modifications, a lot of interpolations, and all these things have come. So that's a big exercise. But I think the first step is to change the whole approach between medical systems. We have to realize that, like in China, that Ayurveda, this is part of our tradition. It's just that we are working in different fields, but our goal is the patient. So once that is made very clear, the roles of each, medical system is made very clear, then I think it will be. So my only feeling is there are two approaches possible. One is you study purely Ayurveda, modern medicine, then later think of integration. The other thing is you integrate at a foundation itself and then allow them to specialize. In my opinion, the second approach will create more healthy relationships, because the beginning itself, about other systems. You're open to it. Otherwise, you study in your narrow thing and you don't know about other things. And later it is more likely to be a confrontation rather than a cooperation. So these are all still open thoughts. I really do not know which is the right way to go, but these are some of the areas we have to start, I think, thinking about.
Thank you, Ramji. Ajay, as we have education is progressing, and you know that these days are globally there are a lot of changes happening, especially in the drug discovery too, even the COVID area too. You may be also knowing that many of the European plants are already in this turn, and it's coming into that. There are even countries which have their own herbs. They are trying to use it. For example, in Italy, there's a manufacturing company called Vidya. They produces many products based on purely based on Italian plants. So it's also a good way, but another way I would like to ask Ajay, how we should explore the flora of other country. For example, Sri Lankan flora we can understand, but what about the European or Australian or United States flora? What's the technique what we have? How we should expose these things to students?
Absolutely. So now Ayurveda is becoming globally, and global Ayurveda outlooks will be there. But if you see the basics, as Raman has told, see the basics of so many things, we don't have proper reasons or proper method to illustrate these to the all communities. So it's better that we can start with Ayurveda theories. We have to understand the Ayurvedic theories in a very well form. And after that, it has to be linked with the current developed branches to becoming a translational research areas. So one such area is this drug discovery. So we have a global flora. In various ecosystems, we have various types of plants are there. Our acharyas are well illustrated how our bhumi will be and how this bhumi is imparting a specific composition to a plant. So that depending upon the geography, the flora is also changing. So we can look into the depthness and our logical thinking utilizing the Pratyaksham and Anumana Pramanas to analyze the any part of the global flora. Along with that, we will use the modern day techniques to assess the plants. We can trespass a numerous investigation process. So if nowadays we want to see a plant and if we want to predict what may be the chemical constituents present in that plant, modern science has to go for numerous chemical analysis for phytochemical, preliminary phytochemical studies, then going for chromatography, then again so many things to identify a molecule. But Ayurveda has a way to identify a specific group of compounds in the form of rasam or gunam like that. By our Ayurvedic principles, it is possible to know about the particular geography and what are the possibilities that that plant can possess. So we can think about that possibilities. So if we get that possibility from that with the modern available biomolecular research or something like that, we can trespass so many other things. So balancing of these things may help to reach to another level. So starting from the botanical identity or seeing the features, so they are simply seeing a plant. But when once Ayurvedic people will see, we can think that this plant has having more Deshnato or Ushna qualities predominant. So this itself is indicated towards it is having some alkaloids or something which is having a hot potency. So we can go for like that. So like that, this is a very rich scope is there to identify these things. And one more thing is, we know that in the world we have a very peculiar ecosystems. So we have some ecosystems like that seashore ecosystems and mangrove ecosystem. Mangrove ecosystem, the plants are having a speciality that the sea water is coming, the fresh water is coming. The alkalinity of the water is changing very fast. So the plant has to accustom it to various types of stress and strains. So if you see that some of the medicines are coming from that area by the ethnobotanical practices of that peoples of that particular area. So we have to do a thorough researches that as our acharyas are told, go to the field and survey the things and take the informations and then you put our thoughts on that. And then we have to do the experiments, repeated experiments and follow it. Then surely we can able to follow that one. One interesting thing is for digesting any blocks or something masses, we are using the plumbagin alkaloids from the Chitraga. But nowadays, the scientists are found that plumbagin alkaloids can be found in the insectivorous plant, Nepenthes, Drosera-like plants. So in worldwide, especially where the hot lava is flowing or hot water is there are numerous types of these insectivorous plants is there. So they found that a large quantity of plumbagin is present in all these species. So interspecies or a same species or an interspecies with is having such type of hot potency, if you are able to identify, it will be a landmark for the discovery of new drugs. So another example is the Artemida. If we tell that Artemida got this Nobel Prize, as Sarah, another Gigi Sarah has told the Nobel Prize, but actually this is a makipu. Artemisia nilgiriensis is a plant that is used by Siddha system and in Kerala also. So from we are using for this Premi and this Joda. So from that molecule is come out. Like that, we have a very wide range of floras or topographies related things in the world wide. If you use such type of thoughts along with the bridging of the other available sciences, researches, then surely we can break through all these things and we can find out new plants. And one of the important things is again we have to look is surely each area has to develop their own flora and their own floral medications. Otherwise, nowadays itself, the nature is depleting, the plants also depleting very fast. In 2030, when we reach, it will be, our population will be reached in 7.8 billion, something like that. So for world, complete world, it is not possible to supply all the things from India. India always depleting the flora, and we have forest is shrinking like anything. So it's must to take out and reach to another level, Ayurveda to the base of Ayurveda to the Dravyas identification to various levels in intercontinental searching of the things and similarities. And one more example is regarding the Bella. There are so many Sida varieties are there in the African countries, in Argentina and in Brazil like this. So what the Sidas, what in North India using and South India using, only the species is different, but we are using. So maybe the same pharmacology can be expected in another continent also. Like that, we have to think about that, and it will be beneficial for the future generations to come also.
Ajay, this is also a very important thing as you projected the population of the country proportionate to the herbal usage. But another side is that the global warming, the whole climate is changing all over the world. And there may be a large amount of destruction might have happened. Definitely, if it happened, will be the herbal flora will be one of the in-depth damage happens to the flora. So if any country want to evolve to its own traditional knowledge system, do Ayurveda can guide them? Do we have any tools that can be given to the countries? Because we are one of the oldest traditional herbal system, which we still continuing. Do we have any tips for that?
Yes, surely, surely. I think we have such a model, such a role model, starting from the environment to the food and the medicine. We can give these things. So especially the environmental conservations. So one of the area the Ramanath sir has highlighted that the public health. Public health starts from the environment itself, the protection of the environment. How much Ayurvedic peoples are involving in the environmental activities. So each and every Ayurvedic has to become an environmental. That is the basic thing that. So if you look into the scenario of global warming like that, we have certain concepts that sacred groves or the planting of the Ashwatha like tree or Bilva like tree. So in one reference is there Ashwadhamegam, the Negrodhamegam, tree, Amra, Bilva, like that. One concept is there. So trees planting in Indian culture can be adopted in another places also according to their geographical area. So that will be helping a lot for environmental protection. And moreover, nowadays, due to the air pollutions and other things, we need phytoremediation. The world is looking for the ideal phytoremedial plants. So the trees which is growing in India has a very good phytoremedial properties there. Like that, in other countries also the plants are having such type of phytoremedial capacities. So we can tell them that if a deciduous plant is there in your area, it is doing so many things to the environment. So it can capacity to absorb the things, and through the leaves it will be converted and it will be fall out. So the degradation cycle will be taking place. Like that ideal food. And then comes only the ideal medicines. So surely, if you look into each and every part, we can do so many things with Ayurvedic principles and other things. So I hope that we can make it through to next level.
Thank you, Ajay. My next question is to Unirishnan sir, because as Unirishnan sir worked from FRLHT as a director of FRLHT for a period, then went into Amsterdam and the public health ideas. So how you look the floras, like from a herbal medicine to a traditional medicine or herbal medicine to an Ayurveda, how you visualize, Unirishnan sir, how you visualize the policy of Ayurveda could be to explore the other floras of different countries?
Yeah. So I ended my last statement by saying that we need to redefine Ayurveda. I think this is, there is a lot of broadening that has to happen in Ayurveda, which is what I meant by that. I think we are seeing Ayurveda as a medical system and a physician-oriented medical system. But what Dr. Ajayan was speaking and what Dr. Ramanohar was speaking about public health, I think it is a health system, and we have never been able to capture that imagination of Indian population, that Ayurveda is a health system, not a medical system. And this is why, this is because our education system is so physician oriented, our products are physician oriented, our learning approaches are physician oriented and text based. But as Dr. Ajayan said, we have these biogeographical climatic zones, and we know we have thousands of ethnic communities in India. And all my work in FRLST with Dr. Ram and others have been about exploring this biogeographical diversity. And that's how I got into the socio-political domain of the society and politics of health and health related knowledge. And what I'm exploring now within the UN system is precisely this broadening understanding of Ayurveda, public health, not a physician oriented approach, but from a public health approach. And as Dr. Ajayan said, where does the public health approach come in Ayurveda? It's from the biogeographical understanding. That is the Loka Purusha Samanya. That is the Loka Purusha, the understanding of Samanya Vishesha, etc. in Ayurveda. And how do you do that? I mean, you can plainly explore these plants and their physical, chemical, pharmacological properties. But there are so many other perspectives that are coming in today in public health. I'm a health system researcher. Within health system, we are talking about today ecosystem health, planetary health, biodiversity and health, one health, climate and health. And Ayurvedic students are not exposed to these concepts at all. Bioremediation, as Dr. Ajayan said, is one element of certain perspective. But what does One Health say? One Health says about understanding of not just, we are talking about human medicine, but already One Health is talking about human health, animal health, and plant health. And we have this concept, Murga Ayurveda, Vriksha Ayurveda, and Ayurveda. But we have never captured this imagination. Kerala is a typical example. We have human health practitioners, Ayurveda Vaidyas, who are so eminent in Ayurveda or Murga Ayurveda, etc. But we had the synthesis of this knowledge, but we in the academics it's never taught. So I would suggest that as Ayurvedic community, we need to say that we are a health system community. You see what is the public health contribution of Ayurveda today. We are not there in reproductive health. Ayurveda people are not there in discussions of food and nutrition. Public health nutrition, we have no role. We are not there in medical jurisprudence. We are just learning it as a topic. We are not there in ecosystem conservation. Most of the medicinal plant conservation programs are done by conservationists. But the entire public health spectrum, the area of sociology of health and medicine, what the different I was reading certain thing by Mark Harris, a very famous historian. He was talking about health and place, the best livable places in India, and Malabar Coast was one of the most livable places in India. How many Ayurvedic students today get exposed to the understanding of health and place? In mainstream medicine, microbiome studies, definitely. But other than that, health and place is a very key concept. But so we are not exposed to this. I'm not denying the necessity, because as Ram was educated, I was also educated in such a Gurukula system of education. And I understand the depth of Swadhyaya. But at the same time, I think we just need not read Harrison's and Hutchison's alone. We need to talk about sociology of health and medicine. We need to talk about public health system research, and so on. And this very idea of ethnopharmacology, ethnobotany. So I think this is where I think Ayurveda should go beyond this medical approach to recapture population health, public health in this country. And that's where Ayurveda says. Now, let me end by a few areas where we can work on. Today, there is no system like like Ayurveda to uh, understand non-communicable diseases, because we have such a holistic health, geriatrics, so many areas, reproductive health. We can make huge contributions. Food and nutrition, our understanding of food and nutrition. I was looking at Charaka Samhita for another talk, and just in the Sutrasthana, the idea of wellness in Ayurveda is profound. But how many of us learn about wellness? How many of us know about the idea of salutogenesis? You know, Dr. Antonio Moranti wrote a paper on Ayurveda and salutogenesis, but we are not exposed to these. We don't read these things. So I think, let me just, so much discussed, but let me just say that Ayurveda is not a medical system. This is my understanding. Ayurveda is an all-inclusive, people-centered, pluralistic health system which is much broader. And this Kerala has proven that. And if any student in this group is interested, there is a very beautiful article by Dr. Warrior in a 1984 Ancient Science of Life issue. He talks about how Ayurveda has captured this broad imagination of what was told by Charakan in Brihat Rais. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishant. Now the last question is to Ramji. I have a question of two part. One first part, as you know, that from when we introspect to our own country, as you rightly mentioned, there are a lot of reforms that happen. And another side, you are an international teacher. You have been teaching a large community outside the India too. And to the students, at least, what you want to say, if any of the students want to become a teacher, you have been teaching from last 20 years, at least for most of the more than 4 or 5 continents, at least. So my question to you is that how an average BAMS student should have a hope he can become an international teacher. So what are the things a student should learn so that he can be an international player?
I would like to be very open and frank here. There is the plus side and the flip side of this.
Sure.
Because so first I will tell the not so nice things to hear, but then I will talk about the positive aspects of it. I've also been constantly wary of this thing that, a lot of people who come to study Ayurveda from the West, they are not coming as a regular course. The first thing I was surprised was to see very old people. This is not like when you study medicine or a professional course, there is people who come from a certain age band. They are the ones who study. So because Ayurveda is not, being taught as a professional course, one of the things you will find is that a wide variety of people from different backgrounds may come to study Ayurveda. And we don't know what is there all of the time, what they are going to do with it. Some people just come to learn to enhance their knowledge about some other medical systems. Some people are also looking at an opportunity to brand themselves as, Ayurveda practitioners or physicians. We must also be aware of this. And you may become just a tool for them to get some kind of accreditation, and then they become established physicians of Ayurveda outside. So these kind of challenges and issues are there. If you look at the challenges, I have tried to classify, the type of people who come to study Ayurveda. Some have no medical background, some are just, general public. And I had a lot of debate whether we should even address such people. And after a while, I realized, Ayurveda is there as a way of life and also as a medical system. For this general public, it's important that Ayurveda propagates outside India. First, it should get into the lives of the people. And when I saw this population, that is when I realized that, you must be clear. What I'm saying is you must have a discrimination of who is coming to you to learn, whom you are teaching, what is the purpose. If you work with this awareness, then maybe you'll be able to really contribute. Because what we are seeing is a variety of learning opportunities, a whole cross-section of people who come. If you don't understand that granularity, then you may get into trouble. You may not be able to make sense of what you're doing. So Ayurveda has to first enter into the lives of the people. So it is good that the common public is also coming to study Ayurveda. Any course you offer, a lot of people will join. Then we have the professionals, and there are different types of professionals who come to study Ayurveda, and they have different expectations. One is there are psychologists who may come, there are dietitians, nutritionists who will come, then there are pharmacists and who are interested to learn about traditional Ayurvedic pharmacy, those who come. Then there are, in some countries like Germany, there is a health practitioner who come to study Ayurveda. Then there are modern medical doctors. There are even nurses who want to study. So all of them have different, purposes. So we cannot offer all of them the same thing. When especially modern medical doctors want to come and study Ayurveda, they have some particular expectation. They want to integrate some aspects of Ayurveda into a clinical practice. So having said this, these are the challenges. We need to be very clear. We should offer courses that are addressing their needs, but at the same time are ethical from our point of view. This, I think, we must be very much wary of. But if you take care of all these things, we could slowly introduce Ayurveda. There is a lot of receptivity, which is what I have learned. And the more over the years, the more and more I've seen people, connecting and reaching out. So this is definitely a growing area. But one thing what I've found is like, people in India, we have reduced Ayurveda to medical system. As Unni was, medicalization of Ayurveda has happened here. And what is interesting outside is that people are looking at Ayurveda something beyond just a medical system. And if you are not able to present Ayurveda in that way, especially spiritual aspects, mind aspects. I took to study of psychology in Ayurveda after exposure to the Western audience only. One day I casually spoke about the mind, and then I became labeled as a psychologist, which I have never been. And after that, I had to take a lot of effort to study more about psychology from an Ayurvedic aspect and also spirituality. So I must say that this exposure to the Western audience has also helped me to rediscover a lot of spiritual, holistic elements of Ayurveda. And another aspect is, diet and lifestyle, because in those countries, we do not have, sanction for medical practice. You will find, I was surprised to see a lot of the doctors there practicing diet and lifestyle and then getting good results. So these are multiple dimensions. But I think the more authentically we are studying Ayurveda, the more authentically we are able to present it according to the needs of these different segments of people. The student community that comes to us are extremely varied. And if you categorize and offer, the knowledge in the right way, I think we will be able to empower Ayurveda in the West. And this is really growing. So thank you.
Thank you, Ramji. I think the last question also to the Ajay is that, why I raised this question to Ramji, because there are a lot of Western people, like half doctor people, already written many books, even in Dravya Guna. There are books called Dravya Guna for Westerners, Therapeutic Guide for Westerners, like that, even. Maybe it was written by Atreya Smith, maybe one of the good person who was a student of Chunekar sir. But there are a lot of books which is really looks not up to the mark, and things are a little bit fuzzy. So Ajay, what do you say? What do you think about? Oh, Ramano sir, thank you very much for your participation. I know that you're really busy. Thank you for finding time for and joining with us, and we are very thankful to this. Let us continue with our discussion, and Unni and Ajay will agree with me to join. Thank you, Ramji. Thank you for your precious time. Ajay, so my question was, back to my question. My question really was, is there is a really auditing is needed for at least for these type of informations, what comes from the West in the terms of the Viguna or whatever the plane. What do you think about this?
Surely we need so much work has to be done. So, for example, there are so many new plants are coming, and with any specific studies or other things we are using for as a daily practice in the name of Ayurveda. So, in such circumstances, we need a study with the strict Ayurvedic principles. For example, we know that there will be a plant called as Lakshmi Daru that's come to India, and it's spread like anything. So nowadays we can see that this Lakshmi Daru is, on South India, there will be everywhere it is there. It's become a natural plant. But most of the people, what they will do, they will take the leaves and put it in the water and then boil it and drink it as a pana. So how a pana has to be made and how much intake of these chemicals will or these types of plant materials inside will produce some effect or bad effect or good effect, that we have to study. So in Ayurveda, we are lacking such type of studies. So presently, we have to look into these specific things. And even nowadays, we can see that due to the globalization, homogeneity of the food has came into existence. So cauliflower and cabbage is utilizing in all over the world, and potato is utilizing everywhere. So is it Ayurvedic peoples are looking into these matters? So is it this potato or the big onion? Is it good for the place called Kerala? It's a place where there will be so much of perspiration and other things are taking place. So these things we have to tell about the peoples regarding that things, and then we have to study these in very depth. So in such context, if you see the other books or foreign books, you can see that it has rich carbohydrate, rich protein, and so many things. So it was having a very good caloric value, and it is very good. It's not like that. In Ayurveda, we have a specific thing that it's a vipagam. After the digestion, what things will happen. So that way, we have to look these things and then we have to incorporate it into the Ayurvedic field. So simply Ayurveda, if everything we are incorporating, then it is a dangerous situation also. So on that sense also, we have to work very hard. And this is the duty of every young, those students and those people are studying and coming with these things. We are one of the main thing what we are lacking nowadays is the scientists. Ayurvedic scientists are not evolving. We have to mold up and bring so much group of scientists from the students level itself to work on these aspects. That's the world needed. So what the thing nowadays means, all of them are going to a Vaidyam and practicing. Only in that area we are constricted. But if you see the 100 years back history, each and every Vaidya is a scientist and same time he has become a Vaidya. So this link we are losing. So I think if we look into these aspects, then surely we can update these new things and we can produce more authentic books regarding these to the world.
Thank you, Ajay. You raised a very important point, which is an extension of what Krishnan has mentioned. You mentioned that Ayurveda as a medical system to a health system. So it may be, there was a period, definitely, Ayurveda is a healthcare system rather than a medical care system. Very often this word has been used by B.M. Hegde as health care system, medical care system, but definitely Ayurveda was in another ground. So you are one of the earliest person who left this so-called the Ayurvedic practitioner framework, and you made a different journey in your life. I know most of the things in your life because you've taken a different turn. Maybe you are one of the foremost person too. So how you, there are a lot of students are hearing this program. So how you visualize this space and what is the future of this area?
Thank you. I think that's a very interesting question. See, my transition from, because I focused a lot on local health traditions in Natu in the initial days. And then I was also looking at the social and political dimension. Every issue that we are discussing today, evidence, quality, standards, all these terms are defined in a unilateral position. So I was trying to look at it from a critical perspective, and that's how I made this journey. But then it went into public policy, policy analysis, health system research, and so on, due to certain, diverse interests. But what I would say is that in the future, most of the health related aspects will be studied in an interdisciplinary framework. There will be aspect of the social side of medicine. There will be also the natural side. Natural side means the natural science part, like biology, chemistry, pharmacology, and so on. But equally, there will be also dimensions of social medicine, community medicine, this broadening understanding of health, and so on. So I would say that while the Ayurvedic graduates or students should have a very strong grounding in the textual aspects, I think they should also explore some of these interdisciplinary dimensions where Ayurveda has already shown the way. And now artificial intelligence is there in place. I mean, a lot of computational things will happen in terms of disease diagnosis, in terms of even network pharmacology and so on. I mean, in multiple dimensions, systems approach is going to be the thing. So it is very important for an Ayurvedic graduate to open up a little bit into other aspects of learning as well. And this can be, I mean, I think our current BMS education syllabus or system is far away from all this. There is hardly any understanding of problem-based learning, hardly any understanding of this social learning, which Dr. Ajayan is repeatedly saying. So I think it should definitely broaden, and all Ayush graduates should also look at Ayurveda graduates also should look at one or two broad areas of work where they can work together in an interdisciplinary fashion. You see, Ayur biology is a new subject in last 10 years, in last decade. Similarly, whole system research. It's a very new area. But these are all interdisciplinary subjects. So I think that will be the thing, that will be the future. So Ayush graduates need to empower themselves with multiple competencies, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. There are many students also hearing this program from Ashtangam and different part of the world. So if any of the participants would like to ask some questions, it's the right time to ask questions, and there are eminent speakers in front of you. They are the best person they can answer in policy matters or whatever. Anybody please. Just unmute your mic and you can. Anyone? Okay, then we would like to conclude the session. So it's very important for Ayurveda to revive and proceed its entity for next centuries. Even in the context of COVID, still Ayurveda is one of the oldest medical systems that survived at least for last 5,000 years. And most probably, this is the only system that exposed to the another big earlier pandemics like plague, malaria, and many things. And how they handled that? Do the physicians of that time were able to do something for that? Do they documented something for that? Does our book have any messages about these things? Absolutely, the Indian system, what we have current medical system, definitely not taken any move in this direction also, because history is a distilled information what we have. We could explore this potential to look back to the history, how this traditional knowledge system survived even in this period of COVID. It is a very important thing. At this stating this, I would like to conclude this session, and I'm really thankful to Dr. Ram Manohar, Dr. Ajayan, and Unikrishnan for joining with us. It is a great pleasure. Once again, we'll meet you again. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, all the panelists, for this brainstorming session, and also to our moderator for extracting the maximum from the panelists. Now it's time to conclude the Ayurveda Day celebrations programs. For that, I invite Biden Jitesh, Associate Professor and HOD, Department of Rajana Shariram, Ashtamgam Vidyapeedham, and also the convener of the programs, associated with Ayurveda Day celebrations at Ashtangam. Over to you, Vaidya Jagdish.
എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ 5ാമത്തെ ഒരു ആയുർവേദ ദിനം ആഘോഷിച്ചു വരികയാണ്. അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു അവസാന ഘട്ടത്തിലാണ് നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ. അപ്പം ഈ ഒരവസരത്തിൽ കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷങ്ങളിലൊക്കെ നമ്മളൊരു ആയുർവേദ ദിനം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ആയുർവേദ ദിനം എന്നതിനുപരി ഒരു ആയുർവേദ വാരമായിട്ടായിരുന്നു ആഘോഷിച്ചു വന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷങ്ങളിൽ നമ്മൾ പല വിദ്യാലയങ്ങളിലുള്ള പരിപാടികൾ, അതേപോലെ തന്നെ പബ്ലിക് ഹെൽത്തിനുള്ള പല പരിപാടികളൊക്കെയായിരുന്നു നടത്തി വന്നത്. പക്ഷെ ഈ വർഷം ഒരു പ്രത്യേക സാഹചര്യം കണക്കിലെടുത്ത് പരിപാടികളിലൊക്കെ ചുരുക്കി ഒരു ഓൺലൈൻ പരിപാടികളായി ഒരു ഒറ്റ ദിവസത്തെ ഒരു പരിപാടിയായി ചുരുക്കേണ്ടി വന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷത്തിൽ നിന്ന് വ്യത്യസ്തമായി ഈ വർഷത്തില് നമുക്കൊരു പുതിയ ഭാഗ്യം അല്ലെ, അതായത് നമുക്കുണ്ടായിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു പുതിയ ഭാഗ്യം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ആയുർവേദത്തിലെ പ്രഗത്ഭരായ പല വ്യക്തികളെയും നമ്മുടെ പരിപാടിയിൽ പങ്കെടുപ്പിക്കാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞു എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അവരുടെ ആയുർവേദത്തിലെ കാഴ്ചപ്പാടുകൾ എന്തൊക്കെയാണെന്നും, അതേപോലെ ആയുർവേദ 2030 എന്ന വിഷയത്തിൽ അവർക്കുള്ള ആയുർവേദത്തിൽ ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന വെല്ലുവിളികൾ എന്താണെന്നും അതിന്റെ സാധ്യതകൾ എന്താണെന്നും ഒക്കെയാണ് അവർ നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികളോട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഷെയർ ചെയ്തത്. എനിക്ക് നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികളോട് ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ പറയാനുള്ളത്, ഈ ലോകം മുഴുവൻ ഇപ്പോൾ ആയുർവേദം എന്നത് ഒരു ആചരിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ഈ സമയത്ത് നമ്മൾ സ്വയം വിമർശനാത്മകമായി ചിന്തിച്ച് നോക്കേണ്ട ഒരു കാര്യം, നമ്മൾ എത്ര പേർ ഈ ആയുർവേദത്തിന്റെ സാധ്യതകൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആയുർവേദം ഒരു ദൈനംദിന ജീവിതത്തിന്റെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ ജീവിതത്തിന്റെ ഭാഗമാക്കുന്നുണ്ട് എന്നതാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ കഴിഞ്ഞൊരു കോവിഡ് കാലത്ത് എത്ര പേർ നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികളിൽ തന്നെ നമ്മൾ എത്ര പേർ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന എത്ര പേർ നമുക്ക് ആയുർവേദത്തിലെ സാധ്യതകൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആയുർവേദത്തെ പ്രയോജനപ്പെടുത്തി എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. ആയുർവേദത്തിന്റെ സാധ്യതകളെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആയുർവേദത്തെ നമ്മുടെ ദൈനംദിന ജീവിതത്തിന്റെ ഭാഗമാക്കുക, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആയുർവേദ ശാസ്ത്രത്തിന്റെ ഉപാസകരാകുക എന്നാണ് എനിക്ക് ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികളോട് പറയാനുള്ളത്. ഞാൻ ഈ വൈകിയ വേളയിൽ ഞാൻ അധികം കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞ് ദീർഘിപ്പിക്കുന്നില്ല. ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ കർത്തവ്യത്തിലേക്ക് കടക്കുകയാണ്. ഇന്നത്തെ ഈ പരിപാടി മംഗളകരമാക്കാൻ ഒത്തിരി ആളുകളുടെ പിന്തുണ ഉണ്ടായിട്ടുണ്ട്. അവരെ ഓരോരുത്തരെയും നമുക്ക് ഓർമ്മിച്ച് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അവരോട് നന്ദി പറഞ്ഞ് നമുക്ക് ഈ പരിപാടി അവസാനിപ്പിക്കാം. ആദ്യമായി നമ്മുടെ അധ്യക്ഷ പ്രസംഗം നടത്തിയ നമ്മുടെ ചെയർമാൻ ഗംഗാധരൻ വൈദ്യർ സാർ, അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ അധ്യക്ഷ പ്രസംഗം, അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഓൺലൈനിൽ വരാനുള്ള ഒരു ഔസൗകര്യം കൊണ്ട് അധ്യക്ഷ പ്രസംഗം നേരത്തെ നമ്മൾ റെക്കോർഡ് ചെയ്ത് വെച്ചതാണ്. അപ്പം അദ്ദേഹത്തെ വീട്ടിൽ കാണാൻ പോയിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു അവസരത്തിൽ അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞ ചില വാക്കുകൾ എനിക്ക് ശരിക്കും ഒരു ആശ്ചര്യം തന്നെ തോന്നി. കാരണം ഞങ്ങളൊരു ഉച്ച സമയത്താണ് അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ വീട്ടിലെത്തുകയും അദ്ദേഹം രാവിലെ മുതലേ രോഗികളെ നോക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സമയമാണ്. അപ്പൊ ആ സമയത്ത് ഞങ്ങൾ അദ്ദേഹത്തോട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ അവതരിപ്പിക്കുകയും വിഷയം അവതരിപ്പിക്കുകയും ചെയ്തു. ആ സമയത്ത് ഞങ്ങൾ അദ്ദേഹത്തോട് ചോദിച്ചു, ഈ പരിപാടി ഇപ്പോഴൊരു പ്രസംഗം, ഒരു സ്പീച്ച് നടത്താൻ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുണ്ടോ എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചപ്പോൾ അദ്ദേഹം പറയുകയുണ്ടായി, ആയുർവേദത്തിന് വേണ്ടി ഞാൻ പലപ്പോഴും സമയം നോക്കാറില്ല. ആയുർവേദത്തിന് എപ്പോഴും ആയുർവേദത്തിന്റെ ചില നല്ല കാര്യത്തിന് വേണ്ടി അദ്ദേഹം സമയം നോക്കാതെ എപ്പോഴും തയ്യാറാണെന്നാണ് അദ്ദേഹം പറയുകയുണ്ടായി. എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു അത്തരത്തിലുള്ള ചില കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഈ വയസ്സിലും അത്തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമ്മുടെ യുവതലമുറയിലെ ആയുർവേദക്കാരും ആയുർവേദ ഡോക്ടർമാരും ഒരു പാഠമായി മനസ്സിലാക്കേണ്ടതാണെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് എൻ്റെ വ്യക്തിപരമായ പേരിലും അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും ഞാൻ നന്ദി പറയുന്നു. അടുത്തതായി നമ്മുടെ ഉദ്ഘാടന പ്രസംഗം നടത്തിയ ജി ഗംഗാധരൻ സാർ ആയുർവേദത്തിന്റെ വേറിട്ട ആശയങ്ങൾ അദ്ദേഹം പറയുകയുണ്ടായി. ആത്മവിശ്വാസത്തോടെ ഒരു യുവജനങ്ങൾ ആയുർവേദത്തിലേക്ക് മുന്നോട്ട് വരണമെന്നാണ് അദ്ദേഹം പ്രധാനമായി അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ സ്പീച്ചിൽ പറയുകയുണ്ടായത്. അദ്ദേഹത്തിനും എൻ്റെ വ്യക്തിപരമായ പേരിലും അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും ഹൃദയത്തിന്റെ ഭാഷയിൽ നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഇന്നത്തെ ഒരു പരിപാടിയുടെ ഒരു പ്രധാന ഭാഗം തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ചർച്ചയായിരുന്നു. ആ ചർച്ചയിൽ പങ്കെടുത്ത രാമോഹൻ സാർ, അതുപോലെ ഉണ്ണികൃഷ്ണൻ സാർ, അജയൻ സാർ, പ്രധാനമായും എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു രാമോഹൻ സാറെ പറ്റി പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഇന്ന് രാവിലെ മുതലുള്ള പരിപാടികളാണ്. അതായത് നമുക്ക് ഇന്നത്തെ ഒരു സെഷൻ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ ഷെഡ്യൂൾ നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ രാവിലെ മുതൽ ഇന്ന് രാത്രി വരെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഷെഡ്യൂളാണ്. അപ്പം ഇന്നത്തെ ഒരു പരിപാടിയിൽ അദ്ദേഹം വന്നതിനും അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഒരു അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന് വേണ്ടി 1 മണിക്കൂർ സമയം അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ചെലവഴിച്ചതിനും അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഒരു പ്രത്യേകം നന്ദി പറയുകയാണ്. അത് അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും എൻ്റെ വ്യക്തിപരമായ പേരിലും ഞാൻ അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും വ്യക്തിപരമായ പേരിലും ഞാൻ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് നന്ദി പറയുകയാണ്. നന്ദി. അടുത്തതായി നമ്മുടെ ഉണ്ണികൃഷ്ണൻ സാർ ആയുർവേദത്തിൽ, അതായത് ഇന്റർനാഷണൽ ആയിട്ട് ആയുർവേദത്തിന്റെ സാധ്യതകൾ എന്താണെന്നും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ പബ്ലിക് ഹെൽത്തിൽ ഇനി മുന്നോട്ട് പബ്ലിക് ഹെൽത്തിൽ ആയുർവേദം എന്തൊക്കെ ചെയ്യണമെന്നും അദ്ദേഹം പറയുകയുണ്ടായി. അദ്ദേഹത്തിനും എൻ്റെ വ്യക്തിപരമായ പേരിലും അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ദ്രവ്യത്തിന്റെ ഒരു ദൗർബല്യം ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന സമയത്ത് മരുന്നുകളുടെ നിർമ്മാണം എങ്ങനെ, പുറം രാജ്യങ്ങളിലുള്ള മരുന്നുകൾ ഉപയോഗിച്ച് ആയുർവേദത്തിൽ എങ്ങനെ നമുക്ക് ഇനി മരുന്നുകളുടെ ഒരു പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻ, ഒരു നിർമ്മാണം ചെയ്യാം എന്നതിനെ പറ്റി നമ്മുടെ അജയൻ സാർ വ്യക്തമായി വിശദീകരിക്കുകയുണ്ടായി. എങ്ങനെ പുറം രാജ്യങ്ങളിലുള്ള ചെടികൾ എങ്ങനെ നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാം, അതെങ്ങനെ ആയുർവേദത്തിലേക്ക് ഉപയോഗപ്പെടുത്താം എന്നൊക്കെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിനും എൻ്റെ വ്യക്തിപരമായ പേരിലും അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും ഞാൻ നന്ദി പ്രകാശിപ്പിക്കുന്നു. അടുത്തതായി നമ്മുടെ പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ നമ്പി സാർ ഇന്നത്തെ പരിപാടി സമയാധിഷ്ഠിതമായി 1 മണിക്കൂറിനുള്ളിൽ സമയാധിഷ്ഠിതമായി നിർത്തുകയും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ പുതിയ പുതിയ ഏത് ആശയങ്ങളും വളരെ പെട്ടെന്ന് തന്നെ ആശയങ്ങൾ നടപ്പിലാക്കാനും അതിന് മുഴുവനായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു പിന്തുണ നമുക്ക് തരികയും ചെയ്യുന്ന നമ്പി സാറിന് ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ പേരിലും അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ ആദരവ് ഏറ്റുവാങ്ങി നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികൾക്ക് വേണ്ടി ഒരു ആയുർവേദ സന്ദേശം നൽകിയ ഋഷികുമാരൻ നമ്പൂതിരി അവർക്കും ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ ഞാൻ നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഇതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ ഇന്ന് സുഗായു പ്രൊജക്ട് എന്ന ഒരു പ്രൊജക്ട് ഉദ്ഘാടനം ചെയ്ത നമ്മുടെ ട്രസ്റ്റ് സെക്രട്ടറി കാണിപ്പയ്യൂർ കൃഷ്ണൻ നമ്പൂതിരിപ്പാട് അവർക്കും ഞാൻ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ എൻ്റെ പേരിലും അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ഗുരുമുഖം സീരീസ് ഒരു ബുക്കായി പ്രസിദ്ധീകരിക്കുകയുണ്ടായി. അത് പ്രകാശനം ചെയ്ത നമ്മുടെ മാനേജിംഗ് ട്രസ്റ്റി കാണിപ്പയ്യൂർ നാരായണൻ നമ്പൂതിരിപ്പാട് അവർക്കും ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ പേരിലും അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും നന്ദി പ്രകാശിപ്പിക്കുന്നു. ഇന്ന് ഇവിടെ സ്വാഗത പ്രസംഗം നടത്തിയ പുരുഷോത്തമൻ സാറിന് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ പേരിലും അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. കൂടാതെ നമ്മുടെ എല്ലാ പരിപാടികളിലും നമ്മുടെ കൂടെ നിൽക്കുകയും അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ എല്ലാ പരിപാടികളും ഒരു സിസ്റ്റത്തിലൂടെ കടന്നു പോകാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുകയും എല്ലാ പരിപാടികളിലും അർപ്പണ മനോഭാവത്തോടു കൂടി നമ്മുടെ കൂടെ നിന്ന് നമ്മുടെ കൂടെ പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്ന നമ്മുടെ ഏവരെയും പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട രമ്യ ഡോക്ടർക്കും ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഇന്നിവിടെ ആശംസാ പ്രസംഗം നടത്തിയ മനോജ് സാർ, അതുപോലെ നമ്മുടെ യൂണിയൻ ചെയർപേഴ്സൺ ഖദീജ, സ്റ്റാഫ് സെക്രട്ടറി അർജുൻ എന്നിവർക്കും ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ പേരിലും അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ കുടുംബത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഒരു സ്ഥാപനത്തിന്റെ ഒരു പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഒരു സ്ഥാപനത്തിന്റെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ആയുർവേദ കോളേജിന്റെ പ്രധാന ശക്തി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് തന്നെ അവിടുത്തെ ഡോക്ടേഴ്സ് ആണ് തന്നെ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഫാക്കൽറ്റി ആണെന്ന് തന്നെ നമുക്ക് പറയാം. അപ്പം ഇത്തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു ഫാക്കൽറ്റിയെ ഇവിടെ വാർത്തെടുക്കാൻ സഹായിച്ച നമ്മുടെ പ്രസാദ് സാറിനെ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ ഞാൻ ഓർക്കുകയാണ്. പ്രസാദ് സാറിനെ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ ഞാൻ പ്രത്യേകം നന്ദി പറയുകയാണ്. ആശയങ്ങൾ മാത്രമല്ല എന്നും, ആശയങ്ങൾ ഒരു സംസ്കാരത്തിന്റെ ഭാഗമാകണമെന്നും അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ ആശയങ്ങൾ സ്വഭാവത്തിന്റെ ഭാഗമാകണമെന്നും നമ്മളെ പഠിപ്പിച്ച ഒരു വ്യക്തിത്വമാണ് പ്രസാദ് സാർ. അദ്ദേഹത്തെ ഞാൻ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ ഓർക്കുന്നു. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും എൻ്റെ വ്യക്തിപരമായ പേരിലും നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഇന്ന് സാങ്കേതികമായി നമുക്ക് എല്ലാ പിന്തുണയും നൽകിയ രാമമോഹൻ സാർ, കൃഷ്ണൻ സാർ, അതുപോലെ നമ്മുടെ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളായ ജോയൽ, സത്യപാൽ എന്നിവർക്കും ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ പേരിലും അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഓർഗനൈസിംഗ് കമ്മിറ്റിയിൽ എൻ്റെ കൂടെ പ്രവർത്തിച്ച എല്ലാവർക്കും, അതായത് നിഖില ഡോക്ടർ, ജിഷ്ണു ഡോക്ടർ, ശ്രീജിത്ത് സാർ എന്നിവ എല്ലാവർക്കും ഞാൻ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുകയാണ്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ അഷ്ടാംഗത്തിന്റെ ഏതു പരിപാടികൾ ഉണ്ടായിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാലും എല്ലായ്പ്പോഴും നമ്മുടെ പിന്തുണയായി, നമ്മുടെ സപ്പോർട്ടായി നിൽക്കുന്ന നമ്മുടെ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളെ നമ്മൾ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ മറക്കാൻ പാടില്ല. പ്രധാനമായും നമ്മുടെ ഓർഗനൈസിംഗ് കമ്മിറ്റിയുടെ ഭാഗമായി പ്രവർത്തിച്ച പ്രതീക്ഷ, ദീപക്, ബബിന, അതുപോലെ ഹർഷ എന്നിവരൊക്കെ ഞാൻ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ ഓർക്കുകയാണ്. എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി നന്ദി പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ നിർത്തുകയാണ്. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.
Thank you, Jitesh. And with the national anthem, we can come to the end of this session. Vinayaka जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे गाहे तव शुभ आशीष माहे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे